Okay, hello. I hope you can see and hear me. It's Trevor Emden, and this is your writer's um, bonus question and answer. I'm just looking at another monitor that I've got over here to see what you can see. So please put in the chat if you can see and hear me. I can see and hear me, and that's no good if you can't. Let me just see what's going on here. This is new technology to me, first time out, so I'm hoping that it will run smoothly. I have slides prepared and a big presentation to take you through, which is the presentation you requested. I don't see anything happening. Why are we not live? It tells me I'm live on my screen, but I can't see anything on your monitor, which is a little worrying. Okay. What is going on? What is going on? Hey, somebody here. Hi, Kelly. Kelly, can you see me? Al. Okay, people are here. Because I can't see anything happening on the monitor. I need to know if you can see and hear me. Hello. Hi. More people turning up. Good, good, good. Hey, sounds a bit of a static. All right. I'm sorry about that. We might have to live with it because I don't know what's causing it. And I've got a digital microphone here. All right. Okay. Okay. Well, that's at least I know we have sound and vision. So I'm now going to try and share my my screen with you so I can show you my slides. Thank you, Kelly. So I think what will happen when I share the screen, you should now be able to see like an infinity of cameras. Is that right? But I'm going to share the slides, which will mean that I have to dip in and out of it to see your conversation. So we will get to a Q&A at the end. Do not worry about that. Okay, here we go. So here's the slides. So when I hit play, okay, when I hit play, I need to know if you can still see my screen. Okay, so this, I'm going to just test this, excuse me, and come out of it again. So, can you please type in the chat box if you can see a slide that says Writer's Bonus Training, how to write good, quick, I can't even say it, how to write good, quick fiction on it, a white slide with black writing on it. If you can see that, please type yes in the chat box, and I'm coming back to you to see what you've typed. And if you can see something else, please type no. I did test this yesterday, but it's quite difficult on your own, even with two computers. It appeared to work, but it has its downsides because I can't see what you're typing. Okay, so I'm coming back to the chat box just to see what you've put in there. Okay, I need to know if you could see the slide. Can you still hear me, people? Can anyone still hear me and see me? Okay, brilliant. Thank you, Kelly. Okay, well, there's quite a few people here now, so I'm going to crack on. So thank you very much for your feedback. I'm going to go through the slides. I will check back in the chat box later through the presentation. But please, if you have questions as we go along, type them in, because I don't want you forgetting them. So, type them in as we go along. I can't see them once I'm on the slideshow, but I will see them when I come back to being on camera. Okay, so here we go. So, first of all, first thing to say is thank you very much for giving up your time to be here. I appreciate that very much indeed. I assume everyone who's here knows who I am, but in case you don't, I'm Trevor Emden. I'm the creator of numerous programs, but specifically I'm the creator of Kindle Bullseye and Words from Thin Air, and this presentation is for you guys because you're interested in writing and presumably also writing for money. And the reason that we have this title, How to Write Good Quick Fiction, is because you guys voted for it. In fact, it wasn't even one of the options that I put up there. One of you added it to the options I put on the Facebook poll, and several more of you voted for it. So by a large majority, this is the topic that you chose. So I'm going to do my best to do it justice. So this is what I'm going to take you through. How a child's tree drawing inspired endless ideas. Okay, so this was an idea that came to me as I was putting the slides together, and that's not my drawing, by the way. Mine would be far worse than that. A formula for rapid plot development, and a cautionary tale about teaching and learning. So hopefully that's a good agenda for you. So first of all, I have a question for you. What is the purpose of fiction? If you're going to write any kind of fiction, certainly good fiction, whether it's quick or not, and obviously I don't know what quick is really. That depends on that's going to be subjective, I guess. But what's the purpose of fiction? So why would anybody read a work of fiction, or indeed watch a work of fiction, as we do every time we watch a movie or a TV drama and so on, or even a soap opera? And I guess the answer is to entertain. However, entertaining and entertainment is not a feeling. So the question then becomes, if you look at it from the other end of the scope, as it were, how do we know when we're being entertained? Because you can be entertained at a child's theme park, and you can be entertained by a horror movie, and all kinds of other things in between. So the feeling that we get when we say we're entertained is quite a broad spectrum. So you can't, as a writer, in my view, you can't set out to say, I'm going to entertain my readers. Because what you're actually trying to do is engender a feeling and probably a set of sub-feelings. Now, I'm being careful how I phrase that, because I think that the key here is considering the overall feeling that you want to evoke. If you're writing a romance, you don't want people to feel horror and disgust, presumably. Whereas if you're writing a gothic horror story, then you might want to sprinkle in a love story here and there, but overall you want to make people, want to make their skin crawl or feel creepy or whatever. So you need to decide in advance what's the overall feeling you want to evoke. And I think that out of this, everything else will grow. So if you want to write good, quick fiction, start with that question. If you've got a pen and paper handy, write that down. What's the overall feeling you want to evoke in the reader out of your work? What's your intention? Okay, because I think that the classic thing that fiction writers do, and I'm generalizing hugely obviously, is to probably they start with character and or plot. And maybe maybe you do know something about who your main character or characters are going to be, and you possibly do have some idea about the kind of story you want to tell and possibly even a plot. But I think if you're starting from an absolute blank page, the first question you need to be able to answer is that one. What's the overall feeling you want to evoke? Now, my next tip, because the question was how to write good, quick fiction. So my next tip was, well, if I was doing that, what would I do? And I would want to put myself in that state. Now, those of you that know me know that I am, as well as a writer, I'm a success and life coach, and I'm trained in something called NLP, which stands for Neuro-Linguistic Programming. And if you've never heard of NLP, please Google it, because I don't want to take up lots of your time today, just for that. So, but I can explain enough for you to understand what I mean by that. So what I mean by put yourself in a state is, we're always in a state. You're always in a state of mind. We might call it a mood, but most of us believe that, I hope I'm not insulting anyone's intelligence here, but most people tend to believe that, I'm just having a bad day, or I'm just in a bad mood, and there's no particular reason, and that we have very little control over that. And NLP would certainly offer some counter arguments to that. I don't want to go too deeply into the psychotherapeutic aspects of it. It's a very powerful set of psychotherapy tools, but it has a multitude of uses. So in order to be in a state, three things have to be in place, and they're always in place. Beliefs, what we say to ourselves, the kind of self-talk that goes on in our head that kind of reinforces and underlines those beliefs and underlies them as well, and our physiology, how we use our bodies. So the first thing to say is, what would I need to believe to feel that way? So again, if you're writing a romance and you want your readers to feel, the joy of love and romance, with the a few trials and tribulations sprinkled in, obviously, otherwise it'd probably make a fairly boring story. You need to ask yourself, what would I need to believe to feel that way? So, for example, if your hero or heroine has there's a romance brewing, but let's say we have a heroine, and she feels that the lover she wants is way out of her league. So what does she need to believe to feel that way? She needs to believe she's not good enough. Maybe she needs to believe she's not pretty, which is kind of on the same spectrum. Maybe she needs to believe something about him, but that's also going to say something about her. If she believes that he's too far above her, or too arrogant, or not interested, that still says something about how she is interpreting the signals. So if you're writing, if she's the central character, you still need to ask yourself about what she believes to feel that way. Because if she was a very forthright person, or maybe even an arrogant person, or maybe a very confident person, she would probably approach him, or possibly approach him. Whereas as a less confident person, shall we say, she is not likely to do that and believes that he won't approach her because they're star-crossed in some way. Something like that. So what does the character need to believe to feel that way? And the best way for you to access an answer to that question is to put yourself in that position. Now, that's not going to be too difficult, because actually characters that come out of your own head come out of some kind of experience. Nobody ever writes from absolutely zero experience, no matter how much you're writing about. You might be writing about aliens from planets on the other side of the Milky Way, of which none of us have any experience, but you're still going to be able, you're going to have to relate their story to something that is relatable to human beings here on Earth. Otherwise, no one's going to understand or read it, and you wouldn't be able to write it. So there has to be some kind of, we have to understand their emotional states, their feelings, their why they perform certain actions, and so on. And you can put them in a context and put them in a world that makes sense of those actions, but you still have to relate to some kind of human emotion. So what would I need to believe to feel that way? Secondly, how would I look if I felt that way? Now this is about your body language. Okay, so if you're sitting at your, in front of your computer, staring at a blank screen, thinking, I don't know how to write this, shift your body language. Okay, if you're writing about a heroine who is, maybe successful in her career but not confident in her love life, even if you're, a 6-foot gruff guy, you still have to be able to get inside the head of that heroine. And the best way to do that is to shift your body language so that you adopt the feeling that she's having in some way. So ask yourself, what does someone look like when they feel that way? And just mirror it. Imagine it in your mind. Just Google some images if you like, so you get a sense of it. Cartoons are good, by the way, because cartoonists are masters of drawing body language in a way that we can instantly understand moods. I love, for example, looking at the Simpsons cartoons or the Peanuts cartoons, because those artists, with a few pen lines, enable us to instantly read the character's emotions. So anyway, so the question is, how would I look if I felt that way? So shift your body language, breathe that way, move that way, hold your shoulders, your head, your facial expression in the way that your character would. And what might have happened to me that I believe those things? Now that's really important. So in order to, let me try and explain what I mean by that. In order to arrive at a set of beliefs, see, belief, there's no such thing as the truth about anything. I mean, think about it. There are 7 billion people on the planet, apparently. No two of them have the same beliefs. You'll never meet anybody who agrees with you about absolutely everything, right? So everyone has their own ideas about big issues, global issues, and how the world works and how life is, and those kinds of global beliefs, right down to what they believe about themselves and families and any issue you care to name. So in order to arrive at any belief, what happens to us is that we have like a lot of reinforcing events that say, there it is again. That I'm definitely right about that. My hypothesis is right, and it starts off as a bit of a shaky hypothesis. Most of them when we're very, very little, and as we grow, we kind of test those hypotheses, and some of them stick. Okay, so and for example, I don't want to go down. I have to be careful about rabbit holes that I go down here. But for example, there are people who've had bad experiences in relationships that think all members of the opposite sex are something that I don't want to say live on air, for example, because they've had one, two, or several bad relationship experiences. And often those people don't ever look in the mirror and go, well, actually, I'm the common denominator in all those experiences. And there are other people out there having perfectly successful relationships. Another one is people say, the people who believe that money is hard to come by. And in fact, if you look around, there are plenty of people, young, middle-aged, and old, who are making lots of money very easily. So it's not that it's a universal truth that money is hard to come by. It's just something about what you believe, and that's been reinforced by some experiences, and so on. So I know these are controversial things to say, but nevertheless, whenever you come across a character's belief, it really is helpful if you know, I'm saying that the wrong way around, that you can track that back to say, well, what might have happened to them in order to arrive at that belief. So by putting yourself in the state, so starting with an overall feeling, what's the overall feeling I want to evoke from this work of fiction? From there, you can get what the character believes, and you'll get that more clearly if you adopt some of their physiology, some of the body language, the postures that go with that, the facial expressions. And what might have happened to me that I believe those things? You'll get their history as well. So all of that comes out of emotion, out of coming from an emotional place. And because I believe that, what am I most likely to do? So what actions am I going to take? So if, let's go back to our, hey, I made up this character, fictional heroine, okay, who's in love from afar with this guy that she believes is out of reach. And she believes that because she believes that she's just not in his class, she's not good enough, for example. What is she most likely to do from that state, from that belief, from that position, right? So she's likely to avoid him, perhaps, or avoid eye contact, or let some other woman be an interloper and take him away, and so on, because she believes that. Whereas if she believed, I can have any man I want to, she's going to step in and she'd be the interloper. You see what I mean? So from all of that, you can derive your character's history, context, action, and some parts of the plot. So I've kind of gone over this already, but so just to quickly recap, how to invoke a state. You've got three sides: the beliefs, self-talk, and physiology. Okay? So your beliefs are, as I said, the reinforced hypotheses. The self-talk is what you say to yourself inside your head to keep convincing yourself that this is true. Actually, when you really dig into this deeply, you will really get that you have a lot of control over what happens to you in your life, because you can choose to change that. But this is not a training about NLP as such, but I want to introduce it because it's such a useful tool in just about every area of life. I've found I trained in it in the late 1980s, and the more I use it, the more I discover about it, the more useful it becomes. So plenty of stuff out there on NLP if you want to start reading up or knowing more. So, and then out of that you get thoughts, feelings, and actions. Now this is, well, before I go on to that, this is what I want to say about the child's drawing of a tree, because when I was I don't know how old I would have been, I don't know, maybe early years at school, maybe 8 or 9 years of age, something like that. I remember, and I'm no artist. Not drawing and painting is something that I just don't do. But I do remember we had an art teacher who taught all of us how to draw trees, because you know what children draw trees like a lollipop, right? So you know it's got a big, thick brown stick for a trunk and green circular motion above for the leaves. And she taught us not to paint or draw trees like that. She said, what you do is you draw your ground, your grass or whatever, and then you get the brown paint or the brown crayon and you stroke upwards from the ground, just like the tree would grow, in the direction the tree would grow. So you stroke upwards, make a stroke, and that's the beginning of your trunk. And then you make another one, go over the same line, but slightly next to it to make it thicker. And out of that, you go over it and up, stroke upwards, stroke upwards, stroke upwards, and gradually, out of those upward strokes, you can start extending the strokes outwards to the left or the right to make the big boughs of the tree. But you always start at the bottom and stroke upwards, stroke upwards, stroke upwards. And then out of the boughs, you go along the boughs, and then you can keep stroking along them, and out of those, the branches grow, and then out of them, the smaller sub-branches and twigs and so on. And then eventually, you get a tree shape. And then you can get, if it's a summer tree or an evergreen tree, then you can get your green paint or crayon and dapple it around the branches, and that will look like leaves. And sure enough, it worked. And I always remember it because for the first time ever in my life that day, I painted, I think it was water paint, watercolors we had. I painted something that actually looked realistic. There was a tree. I painted a tree. I was, I don't know, 8 or 9 years old. I was very proud of that painting at the time. And the reason for telling you that is because I think if you start with, I think that starting with the state that you want to evoke, the emotion you want to evoke, get into the state. That's like drawing the tree from the ground up, the way it naturally grows, because that is how real life stories naturally grow as well. If you think about it, we don't go through our lives thinking about what shall I do next that would make an interesting subplot or chapter for my life. We don't do that. We act and react on things we think and feel, and although we like to believe that we act on our logical thoughts, most of the time we do not. We act on our emotions and then generate thoughts out of those emotions, and the emotions come from the thoughts, which also come from the beliefs that we have. So if you trace things back to their roots, you will get the whole thing growing organically out of that. And then you just repeat that process for chapters, subplots, and so on. So you've got overall you've got a love story, but now something thrilling or dangerous or difficult or tragic is going to happen. So so for that chapter you repeat that. So when you know the characters' states, you understand their history, and you can predict their actions. Out of those actions, the story will arise naturally and tell itself. So I hope that's making sense, and I hope that's useful. So the second part of this is called the hero's journey. But just let me come out and check that you're still able to see and hear me, and let me just see if there are any questions. Does anybody have any questions? There's nothing in the chat box. Hi Rutger, good to have you here. No, anything in the chat box, folks? Any questions? No. Okay, in that case, I'm assuming you can still see my slideshow, or not right this second, but I'm going to go back to it. Okay, so let's talk about the hero's journey. Now, some of you will already know the hero's journey. I'm not going to go through it in great detail. I will tell you, however, where you can go through it in great detail. But I'm going to give you, because you asked about writing good, quick fiction, good, quick fiction. So let me tell you a bit about what the hero's journey is. The hero's journey was first, or the concept came from a book called A Hero with a Thousand Faces by Joseph Campbell, which was a book published in 1949. He was a mythologist, and what he did was collate many myths from all over the planet and from all periods of history throughout religious scriptures and later myths right up to relatively modern times, and realized that there was, he called it the monomyth. There was just one basic plot line that is told again and again and again. And in fact, that's been written out in much more concise form by a number of people, in particular a man called Christopher Vogler, whom I'll tell you about in a second. But these are the 12 steps of the hero's journey. Now, I'll quickly run through this graphic, but you can Google the hero's journey, and I'm going to give you some links and stuff in a second that I think you should check. But let's just quickly. I want to just quickly go through it, and I am going to quickly go through it because you don't need every part of this to plot your story. Okay, but stage one, starting on it goes around clockwise from the top right. I've got no pointer here, I can't show you, but it goes around clockwise from the top right to the top left. If you're wondering where to look. So stage one is you have to put the hero or characters in some context that is their normal world, their ordinary world. So that because there has to be something that's going to cause the transformation that the story tells. So you have to establish, this is where they are. Everything's going along hunky-dory as far as they're concerned, but some big problems coming, and that takes you to stage two. So Stage 2 says, dude with a problem. So either there's a villain or an enemy of some kind coming in who wants something, or the hero wants something, but there is an obstacle of some proportion to get past. Now, obviously, you can see that we could apply this to almost anything. In like some of the King Arthur legends, it might be a dragon or an evil witch. If we're talking about a modern romance, it might be a career move, or I mean, it could be anything. It could be a difficult boss. It's applicable across any genre, anything you like. Step 3 then, the inciting event pushes the sometimes reluctant hero into the quest for a solution. So at this point, there is some resistance in the hero to taking the action that's required. Stage 4 takes them across the threshold. They have no choice, or they feel that they can't stay where they are. Things have to change. The hero picks up the gauntlet and charges out of his comfort zone. And in many stories, somewhere around this point, a mentor will emerge. Think of Gandalf in The Lord of the Rings, although he absented himself for large portions of that story after setting Frodo and his companions off on the journey, but other people kind of stepped in to look after them, like Legolas, I think it was, wasn't it? But you will often find that, and in the Narnia stories, it's Aslan who steps in to help the children. So we see that. Stage 5, the trials and tribulations, temptation and sacrifice on the road to victory. So there will be challenges and temptation and sacrifice. You don't really need me to read this out to you. Stage 6, just when the hero thinks he or she is making progress, there's a setback of some kind. Then moving around the clock over to the left-hand side, escalating stakes, do or die, the result of risking the journey. So there's a huge danger now will appear, and then that takes us into stage 8, where the dark forces appear to be winning. Harry Potter has probably been our most recent version of this, and the hero faces his greatest fear, which takes the hero then into stage 9, a symbolic death and rebirth, a moment of transformation, and some kind of magical powers bestowed. Now, they're not always magical in the sense of myth and magic, but some inner strength can be found as well. In stage 10, excuse me, the hero vanquishes the antagonist, and that takes us towards stage 11 and 12, 11 being the journey home, but some either companions of the enemy or something left of the enemy. There's often a chase scene at this point where we know it's not quite all over yet, and the hero still has to make his or her or their final escape, which of course in this journey anyway, the hero does, returns to the ordinary world, but things are different from then on, and there's a sharing of the boon, the magic, with the home tribe, and life will never be the same again, but hopefully it will be better. So, here's my take on the hero's journey. Now, the point about the hero's journey is you don't need every step of that. If you're writing good, quick fiction, I mean, examples of hero's journey, modern ones that we have, Star Wars. George Lucas very openly has talked about being influenced by the hero's journey, but Star Wars is 9 movies long, or will be when it's finished, I believe. So you want to write good, quick fiction. That's not quick. So I would say just pick some elements out of that, because not every story with every hero's journey has all 12 of them. So you want something, I think that first step you're going to need, something that takes your hero from a normal world to some kind of separation, and they're probably going to be reluctant about it. They're not going to go, hey, hi honey, I'm off for an adventure now, because that really isn't very entertaining. So there's going to be some resistance to that. So from that resistance, they will have to have some kind of uncomfortable acceptance of it. I've got to do this, there is no choice. I have to move in this direction, even though I don't want to leave my loved ones or whatever it is behind, or my comfort zone behind. So reluctant acceptance, but taking it on. Then at some point, the realization or the gift of some power that's going to enable the hero, heroine, heroes, whatever it is, to take their journey, to take it forward and give them a chance of winning against what are probably difficult, if not seemingly impossible odds. Now again, it depends on the setting of your story, so if it's a kind of, what should I call it, real world based story, then your characters might realize that they have some inner resource, some inner strength that they've not accessed before. In more magical stories, they can be gifted some power. Think of the superhero stories as well. Spider-Man got bitten by a radioactive spider, I believe, and so on. But some kind of turning point where the hero, heroine realizes they are able to do something they weren't able to do or didn't believe themselves capable of at the beginning. Then a great threat in which the power gets put to use, followed by a transformation. Now the great threat obviously can go on for some considerable time and can put the hero or heroine in great danger. But the result, the outcome will be that there is some transformation in the hero or heroine, and they may or may not return to their original context. I think that stories don't have to return to, can be completely circular to where they began. But there must be some return to perhaps return is the wrong word, some realization, maybe a moment of epiphany in the hero that I've got somewhere that I didn't expect to get, and now I can fill in the blank, but in some way help or support the life that he left behind, or she left behind. So the power finally is put to good use and passed on to others. So that's how I would see plotting it out. So with the hero's journey and with the state management idea, you've now got a set of tools that should enable you to pretty much from scratch write good, quick fiction. Now, I'm going to tell you a story, but before I do that, let me just check how we're doing. Anything in the chat box? And I want to ask you a question here. Has what you've heard and seen so far been? I mean, okay, I want to blow my own trumpet here a bit. I'm hoping that what you've seen and heard me tell you so far is of such value that you think, yeah, I've probably been on live programs where I've had less ideas put forward than that, because I'm hoping I'm giving you some rich, useful information. Can I just see if those of you that are still viewing, if I can see in the chat box any reaction to that? How's it going? How is it for you? Okay, I hope you can all still see and hear me, because you've all gone very quiet. I can see that there are people still viewing, but are you still responding to me? Hello? Anybody there? Okay. You're all being very, very shy. Okay. Right. Okay, well, I'm checking you all, and there don't seem to be any questions from anyone. So I'm going to move on with telling you my story. So Imagine it's your first day of high school. So you're what, 14 years old, something like that. And you're fresh, you're eager, you're keen to learn. And the teacher walks in, drops a large textbook on your desk and says, that's it, that's your curriculum. I'll be back at the end of the term, which if you're in America, you'll call a semester. And I'll test you on it. You have to pass the exam. And if you fail, you're out. That's it. That's your first lesson of your first day. And the teacher goes around and drops the same book on every other student's desk and leaves the room. Imagine how you'd feel. Evoke that state. And then this happens in every class. Next class, another teacher comes in, does the same thing again, drops another book, says, learn that, see you in 18 weeks, bye. At the end of your first day, you'll have a bag full of heavy books. You won't see the teachers again for 18 weeks. And so here's my question. How well do you think you'd have done in a school like that? Because you'd probably still be trying to pass 9th grade, wouldn't you? I mean, nobody would learn anything, or very unlikely, under conditions like that. So the point I want to make is that's what happens when you get a chunk of information dropped on you all at once, just like you have in this webinar. See, because then what happens is you leave and you never hear from the teacher, which in this case is me, again, except actually, it's quite true, because you will hear from me again, and it'll be next time when we do another topic, and you get another big chunk of information dropped in front of you. So if you're struggling with your writing or your marketing of your writing, it's no wonder you have trouble succeeding. Don't misunderstand me, because free trainings definitely have their place. And they're great for people who don't have 2 pennies to rub together and can't afford anything else. If that's you, then by all means, take your notes and do all you can to get as much out of today's lesson as you can. And I wish you the very best. However, if you are someone who's serious about your future and serious enough to invest in the right tools that will help you achieve your goals, as a writer for fun and profit, which is what I assume you want to be, then I have something that will succeed for you where all others fail. Something more than just another information product for you. I have literally a few places for a free personal consultation about your writing skills and ideas and how to market them. And here's what we'll do together on that consultation. We'll map out your idea and or plot together. Shape the concept into writable chunks. I will coach you to help you find your writing style and your unique voice, and take you through my personal formulae either for fiction or non-fiction creation. In addition, I'll show you how you can create a fan base and a following so that when you publish your work, you've got buyers ready queuing at the door, as it were. How to create continued demand for more of your work, how to market yourself and get known so you can start earning a real living from writing. Now, this is not for everyone, and it's not for you if you're an established author who already makes a good living from your writing, because you already, however you got there, congratulations, that's fine. And it's not for you either if you're at the other end of the spectrum and you're a dabbler who's not willing to invest in your future as someone who writes for pleasure and profit. So if you're either end of that spectrum, then I'm afraid, I'm not going to, there's only one of me, and I only have a very limited amount of time to offer these free consultations. But otherwise, if you don't fall into either of those categories, then please keep listening and watching. So here's how it's going to work. To ensure no time wasters, please understand I have to protect my time here, for the people that are serious. So to get the free consultation, it is free, but I'm going to ask you for a fully refundable deposit of $197 today. That when you pay that, there will be a questionnaire. It will take you immediately to a questionnaire, which is, well, technically it's 6 questions long. Actually, it's 5 questions long. It will not take you more than 10, 15 minutes at the most to fill it in. The 6th question, however, is the most important one because it just says, how do I contact you? If you don't answer that question, the risk is I will have your $197 and not know who it came from. I probably will be able to track it down, actually, because it comes through PayPal, but please make sure you answer that question. And then we schedule a time in the next 7 to 10 days when I will get on Skype with you for your consultation of up to 60 minutes. Okay? If we're not compatible, and that's both ways, either of us can say that, you will get an instant refund of your $197 and will not spend it in the meantime, and you've still had your free consultation. But if we are compatible, then I will invite you to join my exclusive 6 weeks one-to-one live coaching program, which will be tailored just for you. And of course, I reiterate, I can only take a very limited number of people. So what you'll get from me in 6 weeks, I promise you you'll learn more in 6 weeks with me than you will on any creative writing course. Why? Because I teach not just writing, but also personal development. So I teach you to grow as a person and a writer. You can't do one without the other. We'll find a hot idea together or review one you already have. This works for fiction or non-fiction, by the way. You will get 6 live coaching calls. Now, I used to say 6, a weekly coaching call for 6 weeks, but I've done this a few times now, and a week is, for many people, they're too close together. So probably over 10 to 12 weeks, you'll have, or 9 to 12 weeks, something like that. We'll work it out. We'll work around each other. And time zones make a difference, and people's jobs and family commitments and so on. So, but you'll have 6 calls, including and plus personal development, so you grow as a writer and find your voice as well. You'll get advice on new ideas and titles and how to find titles that will likely to be hot sellers. Help with establishing your own audience and fan base so you have people to sell to from day one. Marketing ideas and skills for all kinds of writing. How to find interview opportunities. Once you become established as a writer or start, waving your hands around, say, hey, I'm here, I'm writing stuff, you will be of interest to interviewers. And there are lots and lots of radio channels now online as well. And in case that gives you the collywobbles, confidence coaching for how to do those interviews. And any related issues that come up, this is your time. Now, as I said, this is one-to-one coaching. So what I've put here on this slide is the tip of the iceberg, and what happens in reality with my coachees is that we get our own agendas and we work stuff out together, and so there are all kinds of variations, and sometimes we go down completely different paths together. But that's the baseline agenda, if you like. It will even help you structure your writing business so that you have more time and more freedom for you, the work-life balance issue. So the question obviously is, what's it going to cost? So please understand that what I'm offering you here are skills for life, okay? Because you will always be able to make money from your writing and have fun with your writing whenever you want for the rest of your life. Writing is always going to be available to you. So a skill for life from a college would cost, I don't know, 2 to 4 years of your life, and something between $40,000 and $60,000. That's a big investment. Now, what I'm going to show you now is the last chance at this price, or maybe last but one. I can't be sure right at this moment in time because I've got other fish frying, as it were. It depends how long it takes them to cook, to be honest. But I'm not going to be doing this for much longer. So, okay, this is a little glimpse into the fish that I'm frying. I'm currently working on a membership program that will cost more than double the price of this one. Okay, the membership program will be a group program, and it's not particularly, it's not specifically for writers, although there's no reason why writers can't join. It's much more on the personal development front. So this may well be the last time I offer this opportunity for these one-to-one sessions. Okay, if I do offer it again, the private mentoring, the one-to-one, is going to cost at least $1,997. That's not the price I'm asking today. Okay, so register now. Now, I'm telling you to register now, but you don't actually have a way to do it. So I'm going to give you a link, which is here. Now, I tried to make a button which would have been much more professional, but I can't. because when I give you, when I try to send you the button, well, I'll try sending you the button, but the button goes to an image of the button. And so you should, in a few seconds, see a button come up on your screen, but I don't think it will give you that. So I need to, I don't know how I write to you. Okay, so basically what I'm going to need from you is, if you are interested to do this, please tell me yes in the chat box, and I will and give me your email link. Your email. Other people cannot see your email, and I will email you the link straight after this webinar. If you're watching the replay of this, I will get the button fixed, so that and I will put the link on the replay page. But for those of you watching live, apologies for the unprofessional way that's being done, but I just could not get the technology working in time for the webinar. It worked perfectly in rehearsals, of course, always the way. There we go. So basically, you'll need to click that button, and the cost today is $197, but that's the fully refundable deposit I mentioned earlier. And if we decide not to work together, then you get that straight back immediately. For the full one-to-one program, that's the 6-week program I've just described. Of course, it's not $40,000 or $60,000, and it's not going to be $1,997 today. It will, in fact, be $997, but you will have already paid $197. So if we decide to go ahead after the consultation, you only have to pay, excuse me, the balance of $800. And there is an easy payment option, and I will tell you about that privately at the consultation if that's a preference for you. So to sum up, here's what you get: a free consultation of up to 60 minutes. That's available to you right now. If you enroll in the program, let me just take that button away because it's going to be blocking your view. I just realized. Let me just take that away. It's all very, very unprofessional. If anybody's clicked it, if it took you to the link, I'll be delighted. It should have done, but I couldn't make it work. Okay, so summing up. You get the free consultation of up to 60 minutes. If you enroll in the program, therefore, you effectively get 7 sessions for the price of 6, because the consultation is really a session in itself, and it's free. It will establish you as an author. That's in style, in genre, and even how to manage your time. You'll get personal development coaching, which will enhance your confidence to write and publish, confidence to do interviews, help your work-life balance, and your personal freedom. And that applies even if you want to write under a pen name. So you can't hit the button and register now if you're watching this live. If you're watching this, if you're watching the replay, you should be able to hit a button and register. But as I've said, if you're interested to do this, please put in the chat box a contact link, either Skype or email, and I will immediately after this presentation send you the link so you can hit the button, and we will schedule, depending on your language, your free consultation. So, ladies and gents, thank you for that. I'm going to take that away. So what I need to know is whether you have any questions that you would like me to talk about. So first of all, let me just see. Okay, yes, please. Okay, thank you. Okay, best reference to NLP. Okay, great question. Hold on a minute. Let me just come out of the screen share thing because you're looking at. There we go. Now you should be able to see my my ugly mug. Hello. Okay, this is a great question. What is the best reference to NLP? Wow. Well, Russell, can you tell me if you know anything about NLP? Because, and I'll keep talking, but please, if you've got some information already, if you know something about it, um, let me give you a potted history then, and then it'll give you an idea where to start. NLP was born in the late 1960s and early 1970s, generated by two Harvard professors by the names of John Grinder and Richard Bandler. Bandler and Grinder. As I said, they were Harvard professors. Grinder was a professor of linguistics and Bandler of mathematics. Their common interest was the study of human excellence. They wanted to understand why some people in any field of human endeavor would excel while the majority were average and a considerable number would fall by the wayside. Given a relatively even playing field, they wanted to understand why did some people succeed where the majority didn't. And they chose as their field of research psychotherapy because there were a lot of schools of psychotherapy emerging in the 1970s, 60s, 70s, in America particularly, which were coming out with very, very different ideas about what would generate change and bring about success and happiness in human beings. So they studied that, and they contacted a number of psychotherapists, the best known of whom were Virginia Satir, who founded modern family therapy, excuse me, a gentleman called Fritz Perls, who was not American but was living over there then, I believe, who is the founder of Gestalt therapy, and a guy called Milton Erickson, who is the founder of modern hypnotherapy. And they spent time with all of them, but what they discovered was that Erickson most consistently brought about change in his clients. And he had some idea why, but he didn't really fully understand what he was doing. It was more intuitive. So Bandler and Grinder studied Erickson more than anybody else and realized that he was using certain language patterns and ways of interacting with people that they managed to kind of reduce to a formula. And the early NLP books, things like Transformations, I think one of them is called. By the way, they're very difficult to get hold of now, and if you can find them, they're very expensive. They're only paperbacks, but I've seen them at hundreds of pounds or dollars on eBay and even Amazon, because they're out of print. But Transformations was one of them. Quite difficult to read. They were full of, they reduced them to formulae and ideas about speech patterns and language patterns and that kind of thing. Later, the books became much more accessible. One of the most famous and best-selling, again, very difficult to get hold of, was called Frogs into Princes, which was a transcript of a live workshop that they ran. Very readable, some really quite amazing stuff, but not really much explanation of why it works in there. If you are starting, if you want a starting point for NLP, just to understand what it does, how it works, the basic techniques, there are a lot of books out there, but the one that I think has never been bettered is Unlimited Power by Anthony Robbins. He learned a lot from Richard Bandler. Bandler and Grinder, by the way, are both still working. They don't speak to each other anymore. I have no idea why. They fell out years ago. Bandler is far and away the more famous and more flamboyant of the two. Charges a huge amount of money for his trainings, but to be honest with you, they're worth it. He's unbelievable, that guy. I was lucky enough to go on one of his 3-day workshops back in London many years ago, and I've seen a lot online since then as well. He is remarkable. He's a difficult character, but I mean that's another thing you can do. Is just go on YouTube and type in Richard Bandler or Bandler NLP, and there's tons and tons of stuff there. So he's definitely worth watching. Your other question, Russell, which is how much, I assume relates to the training that I offered you. If you type in your email into the chat box, I will send you all the details by email. And just reading your comments, thank you for those. I think I answered the question, but how much is 197 deposit for the consultation, which is fully refundable if either of us decide not to go ahead with the coaching. To go ahead with the coaching is 997, so 800 balance to pay. That's dollars, US dollars. Even though I'm British, I work in US dollars because most of my clients come from the United States. So I'm just going to check everyone else. Okay, any other? No. I think that's probably, if there are no other questions, I'm going to draw this to a close. Russell, I'm not sure if you're still there or not. So I will try and contact you with some more information. Okay, so it just remains for me to thank you again for your time and for showing up and taking such an interest. And I wish you all the best with your writing, and maybe I will see you on the coaching program, which would be lovely. And if not, see you next time. And keep on the Facebook group, by the way. Keep posting in there. So thank you again for your time, and I'm going to sign off. Bye for now.